So I have a question for you. What does school teach you about money? So when I'm 9 years old, I'm sitting in the 4th grade, and I asked my teacher, I said, hey, when are we gonna learn about money? And my teacher smiled and she said, we don't teach the subject of money in school. Like I could almost hear her saying what my pastor would say, the love of money is the root of all evil. And I said, well, it may be evil to you, but it's not evil to me. I want to learn how to make money. So I'd go home to see my poor dad. He's the head of education. And I said, when do we learn about money at school? And my dad says to me, we don't teach money at school. And I said, why not? He says, well, the government won't let me. I'm going, why doesn't the government teach us about money? So the question kept haunting me, why don't we teach the subject of money at school? And that's where it started. So the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a story of two cultures. One academic, one capitalist. And they didn't like each other. Here's my poor dad, who was an academic elite, and my rich dad who says, you have to learn how to sell. What separated my rich dad and my poor dad were two pieces of paper. My poor dad thought his college diploma, his PhD, was everything. And my rich dad thought his financial statement was everything. But really what makes you rich is your financial statement. I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 1997 and was published. It had to be self-published because every publisher said, you don't know what you're talking about. And today the book is in, I think, 100 languages or 50 languages, whatever it is, and it's still selling. When I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I put in there savers or losers. And people got so angry because for many people, saving money is a religion. But why would you save money when the government and the Fed are printing money? The other lesson in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the rich don't work for money. What the rich know how to do is know how to use debt to buy assets so they get richer. In 1967, I hitchhiked from New York, where I was in school, and I went to Montreal, Canada for Expo 67, the World's Fair in the Future. And the reason I went to Expo 67 was because one of my father's favorite teachers, Poor Dad's favorite teacher, was R. Buckminster Fuller. And Buckminster Fuller had built the geodesic dome, which was a U.S. pavilion at Expo 67. So in 1981, Fuller put on a seminar in Kirkwood, California, near Lake Tahoe. It was called The Future of Business. And he asked our class, what does God want done?
In 1994, Robert and I were financially free. And the beauty of that, the real beauty behind all of that, was that for the first time, we actually had the luxury to ask ourselves, what is it we really want to do with our lives? So instead of us traveling all over the world, telling people what we did, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could create a tool, an artifact, something that could teach people exactly what we did to get out of the rat race of life and become financially free.
And we created the cash flow board game.
So we created a board game called Cash Flow. It kind of tricks you a little bit because you don't even realize you're learning, but you're playing this fun game and you're learning about money and investing. And basically what we found out is people all over the world in countries everywhere were getting together on a regular basis and playing the cash flow game and teaching each other financial literacy. We found out we had over 3,500 cash flow clubs around the world.
And you help each other. You know, it's called cooperation. And you learn together. So the Rich Dad Cash Flow Club culture is the same culture of my rich dad.
I learned business skills that you need in real life to succeed and to do well in business and investing.
The cash flow clubs are very near and dear to me and to Robert because it is people teaching people the lessons, the philosophy of Rich Dad.
It's an environment, it's a culture, a capitalist culture, a culture of learning, a culture of respect, that whether you're rich or poor or smart or stupid or a PhD or never finished school, you've come to learn.
When Robert and I realized that we had all these cash flow clubs all over the world, we realized that these cash flow clubs were fulfilling the mission of the Rich Dad Company.
So one way we fulfilled the mission of the Rich Dad Company, which is to elevate the financial well-being of humanity, is number one, we keep financial education simple. We make it fun. That's why we have games. And we use real teachers, not fake teachers, but also we have people teaching people. So we created the Cash Flow board game in 1996. We created the Rich Dad Company in 1997. And then in the year 2000, Oprah Winfrey called.
And she says, we would like to have Robert on Oprah. And my heart was like beating so fast.
So suddenly, I go from nobody knew who I was. I walk on stage with Oprah Winfrey, probably the most famous, powerful woman on planet Earth. And she loved Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then right after that, Donald Trump called.
Mr. Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki.
Define rich.
Forbes defines it as $1 million a year in passive income, whether you work or not.
Explain for us, Robert, how there is no middle class anymore.
Well, there's many reasons for that, but the middle class is not getting ahead. The rich are increasing, but the tax laws are written against the middle class. So we just got together and said we can't change the tax laws right now, but we can change people.
When I was in Sunday school, I learned a very important lesson. And what I learned is if you give people fish, you feed them for a day. And that's what we're doing all over the world today. We're giving people fish. Giving people fish only creates more poor people. Rather than give people fish, why don't we do what I was taught in Sunday school, which was teach people to fish. The Cash Flow Club culture is to teach you to fish, but more importantly, teach you to be an entrepreneur so you can create jobs. You see, if we have more entrepreneurs, we have less unemployment and more prosperity. It's time we teach people about money. When I was 9 years old, my rich dad taught me how to become rich by playing the game of Monopoly. And I didn't understand why I was playing this game of Monopoly. And one day, Rich Dad said to me, he says, there's many ways you can become rich. One of the best ones are found in this game, Monopoly, because games are some of the best teachers in the world, because all games engage 4 intelligences. Number 1 is your mind. Number 2 are your emotions, fear and anger and sadness. Number 3 is physical. I mean, how can you learn to walk if you don't fall down? And number 4 is spiritual intelligence. As Maria Montessori said, what the hand does, the mind remembers. The difference between the cash flow game and Monopoly is this here. It's called a financial statement. And a financial statement, as my rich dad always said to me, says, my banker has never asked me for my report card yet. Because when you graduate from college or high school, the banker wants to see one thing. They want to see your financial statement.
Most people don't even know what a financial statement is, let alone how to read one. If you don't know where you stand financially, you don't know where your cash is coming from or going, it makes it very difficult to succeed in the real world.
When you look at a financial statement, here we have it, an income statement, income expense, and then you have the balance sheet, asset and liabilities. The poor and middle class work for a paycheck. They work for money. They want high income. What the rich work for are assets. So Rich Dad is one of the only companies that teaches you how a financial statement works, so you can see whether you're getting richer or poor, even if you don't have a college diploma. Artificial intelligence or technology is going to keep taking off. What that's going to do is create more unemployment. Think about it this way. Today, there's about 3.5 million truck drivers in America. In 10 years, they won't need truck drivers. So this idea of go to school, get a job for job security is an obsolete idea.
Many low-end repetitive jobs that require you to do the same thing over and over again can always be automated. AI is about automating current jobs that are not cost-effective. They have tons of human error, so you can use technology to replace that.
In the last 10 years, between 2010 and 2020, the number of millionaires in America went up by 5 times. But also in that same time, between 2010 and 2020, 10 million people lost their jobs. So while the rich got richer, so did the poor get poorer. So when you look at the cash flow quadrant here, who pays the most taxes? What does school teach you about taxes? Because taxes, for most people, is their single largest expense. So which would you rather be? Going to school, getting a job, working hard, and paying a lot of taxes? Or you want to come over to the rich dad's side and pay 0 in taxes, legally? And so for all you millennials out there, this here, if you can't get rich with this, hang it up. This is the most powerful entrepreneur's tool I have ever seen. But if you think like an employee, like my poor dad, this is no help to you.
My friends all went to college pursuing their safe and secure job and future, and come to realize that when they graduate, they can't find that safe and secure job. We were taught to think so small and not think bigger. And if you do choose to be, for example, a dentist, or if that's your passion, then why aren't we also taught that there's different fields we can enter? So you can own the dentist's office, right? Not just be an employee.
When it comes to money, what worked for your parents and your grandparents does not work today. The rules of money have changed dramatically, and they keep changing at such a rapid pace. The key is to get smarter with your money, to get financially educated, to increase your financial IQ. And that's why the Rich Dad Company was formed. That's why we created the cash flow board game. That's why Robert wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because it's our passion and our mission to elevate the financial well-being of humanity.
So I ask you again, what did school teach you about money? And if it was like me, which was nothing, then maybe consider joining a cash flow club and dedicating some time to learn about what my rich dad taught me. It's a culture of capitalism. It is a culture of generosity. And the reason that's important is because, like it or not, we all use money.